I'm delighted to welcome you all to the 21st EBRD annual meeting. I am pleased in particular to welcome the Right Honourable George Osborne at this opening session.
Maria, thank you for that very kind welcome, and thank you for inviting me here today. And on behalf of the Lord Mayor of London, who is here, welcome to the City of London. I'm here alongside, as I look around this room, fellow shareholders from Mexico to Japan, from Egypt to the Netherlands, just a measure of the international community's commitment to the EBRD. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of all the governors here when I pay tribute to the President, Thomas Miro, and his team for what they've achieved over the last 4 years. Thomas, under your leadership, the bank has secured a 50% increase in its capital, returned to record profitability despite a challenging economic climate, and increased its lending by 80%. That is a success in anyone's book. And perhaps most importantly, you were one of the first people to recognise the role the bank could play in supporting southern and Middle East and Mediterranean countries in the wake of the Arab Spring. You have managed the expansion of the bank whilst maintaining its focus on its traditional region of operation. And Thomas, the international community owes you a huge debt of gratitude. On behalf of everyone here, thank you very much. Now, the EBRD was founded in response to some of the most important events in our modern history: the fall of the Berlin Wall and the sudden and total collapse of communist regimes across Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union. But in many ways, the concept behind the EBRD began decades earlier. After the ravages of the Second World War, the world understood that instead of leaving the countries of Europe to fend for themselves, it was in the international community's interests to help those countries rebuild their economies. As General George Marshall put it, the world should do whatever it is able to do to assist in the return of normal economic health in the world, without which there can be no political stability, he said, and no assured peace. And the same lessons were learnt in the early 1990s, when the leaders of Europe and the leaders of the world decided to extend the hand of friendship to Eastern Europe and the former Soviet bloc as they recovered from decades of communist tyranny. The EBRD was set up to help these countries begin the slow and difficult task of building multi-party democracy and market economies where there were none. Since its formation 21 years ago, the EBRD has invested 50 billion euros in a region that stretches from Poland in the west to Mongolia and Russia in the east, the Baltic in the north, and Turkey in the south. But the value the EBRD brings goes far beyond simply the money it invests. Not only because every euro it invests leverages another through private sector investment, it is because also with that investment, the EBRD brings in knowledge of the countries in depth with which it works and real expertise about how to put that investment to maximum effect. The bank has assisted more than 1,850 companies to deliver average increases in turnover of 20% and increases of productivity of 30%. It has supported countries to undertake banking reform, price liberalisation, privatisation, and supported the creation of legal frameworks for property rights. And in every case, it has tailored its projects to the needs of individual countries, be it rebuilding water and wastewater infrastructure in the Kyrgyz Republic, or linking isolated parts of the city of Belgrade via a major new bridge, or Ukrainian farmers helping them to double their storage capacity and raise productivity. And partly due to the work of the EBRD, the prospects of many of these countries have been transformed over the last 20 years. So I guess the question is, why do we need the EBRD today? After all, the countries of Eastern Europe are established democracies, and since the mid-1990s, the former communist countries have grown twice as fast as Western European countries, with trade 6 times greater than at the start of their transition. Well, that is all true, but it doesn't mean that the EBRD's work ends. First, of course, there are still parts of Eastern Europe and Central Asia that need significant support. And second, even those countries that have made the greatest progress still need assistance, more so now perhaps than a couple of years ago, because the financial crisis has led to significant instability as the foreign banks that dominate Central and Eastern European banking have undergone aggressive deleveraging. And as the storms of the Eurozone crisis gather again, there is a risk that some of the good work of the last 20 years in building a stable financial sector and creating jobs and prosperity might unwind. Like the United Kingdom, the region's growth prospects are closely tied to those of the euro area, and deleveraging magnifies this effect. But while this uncertainty continues, the bank is rightly doing what it can to limit the damage of this financial deleveraging in its regions of operation. It has already significantly increased its own lending to the region and, as Maria said, through the Vienna Initiative, has worked to ensure banks maintain their commitment to the region and do not cut key credit lines. But there's a third reason why we need the EBRD today as we did 21 years ago. Because the international community has looked to the EBRD to support the southern and eastern Mediterranean countries following the Arab Spring. A Middle East of open and democratic societies would transform the security of the world and brighten the prospects of millions of people. And it is undoubtedly the greatest prospect for the enlargement of human freedom and dignity since the Cold War. It is a testament to the courage of the people of Tunisia, Egypt, and Libya, and indeed now Syria, that they yearn for what all people yearn for, economic development and political participation. But there are huge challenges ahead. All these countries have suffered sharp reductions in growth as uncertainty deters foreign investment and tourists, a mainstay of some economies in the region, and we need to help them. Many of them will need stabilization support from the international community. Egypt and Jordan are negotiating IMF programs. Others may need support this year. And of course, there are important differences from the economies of Eastern Europe after the Cold War. But there are also similarities. Too much reliance on the public sector for job creation, a weak banking sector, a lack or in some cases only partial integration into the opportunities provided by the global economy. We should not be blind to the challenges. And success, of course, is by no means guaranteed. But if there is one thing we have learnt from this past experience, it is that the best way to ensure transition fails and extremism flourishes is to choke off opportunity and not extend the hand of friendship to countries in difficulty. There are huge challenges that the EBRD can help with. The EBRD can help expand new markets and leverage private investment. And with many of the bank's shareholders dealing with large budget deficits of their own, the bank will need to demonstrate it's delivering maximum value. It can support the region to deal with youth unemployment and low participation of women in the labour force, a vital component of a successful economy. Yet youth unemployment averages 25% across the region, and female participation is just 26%. And it can support small and medium-sized enterprises, the drivers of job creation. 18 million more jobs are needed in the region over the next decade. And if not addressed, chronic unemployment will continue to breed instability and violence. So the decision taken last year through the Deauville Partnership to extend the remit of the EBRD to the southern and eastern Mediterranean was a very important one. But the truth is this: we have not yet mobilized enough of our resources. It is a year and a half since the people of Egypt gathered in Tahrir Square, 7 months since the governors approved the use of the special fund money in the southern and eastern Mediterranean. Now, so far, 27 members have ratified the amendment, but no less than 44 countries are required, and I join Maria in urging everyone to complete this ratification process. And I would say this broader thing. As an international community, I think all of us have to up our game. What would our predecessors say of us today? Yes, they would say, your rhetoric can't be faulted, your promises are impressive, but where is the actual commitment of resources to match the rhetoric? Will you be able to deliver on your promises? Can you rise to the challenge, as you did 21 years ago, to make this a prosperous world for us all? And the answer from this meeting today must be a resounding yes. Yes, we can rise to this challenge. Yes, we can deliver on our promises. Yes, we can go on delivering in the Eastern and Central Europe, the former Soviet Union, while also helping our Southern and Middle Eastern Mediterranean friends. We've got to do all those things, and we can build, therefore, a prosperous world for all of our citizens, and the EBRD can play its role at the very heart of this. Thank you very much.